All right, guys, so we're going to go into an important piece of sales training today, which is tackling your seller lead follow-ups and mastering your sales pitch when you're trying to qualify or disqualify sellers to work with your real estate business. And so this is crucial for two big reasons. Number one is what you're going to see is we want to equip you with skills and different sales training techniques to be able to convert leads in multiple ways. Number two is we want to qualify and disqualify leads as quickly as possible so that we can maximize our time efficiently and work on the leads that are actually going to convert to close business. So making sure you're taking close attention to detail at this stage of the sales process is so crucial for the longevity and success of your business, because as you scale, what you're going to come and find as a challenge is being able to keep up with your leads. And if you're not nailing your sales pitch or qualifying and disqualifying when you're going into your qualified lead follow-ups, you're really going to waste your time in the wrong areas, or you're not going to be able to convert seller leads effectively, and you're going to miss out on opportunities essentially for your real estate business. So this part of the process is super key for either you to become a proficient in this, or partner with someone again in your business who's going to take on that responsibility. So let's jump right into it. Number one, we're going to start with reframing your mind as you go into your sales calls. Number two, we're going to go through a 5-step process of how we're going to nail down that follow-up call and set the proper expectations for the seller on whether or not we're going to do business with them. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with some helpful resources that you can use before, during, and after your follow-up calls, so you can, again, make the best use of your time when you're speaking with sellers and either qualify or disqualify them based on whether or not your business can help them. So before we even go further, many of you may have come into this as just a broker, or many of you come in as just a wholesaler, or maybe you're just a fix and flip or buy and hold investor by trade. Regardless of what you came into this program or came into this community as, you are now a real estate solutions provider. And it's important that we go into our seller conversations letting them know that our business and the core service that we provide is being a real estate solutions provider. And there's a lot of different ways that we can help our sellers maximize the value of their home. And what you want to do on that initial call is assess their seller needs and their goals, so that you can align the best exit strategies or exit strategy based on what you feel is going to meet that seller needs and ultimately get you paid in the process. And so when I break down really looking at a lead, and before I go into my sales calls and my lead follow-ups, I want to figure out which spot, based on the situation that I'm working with, based on the call notes that I have from my cold caller or SMS manager, what should I be leaning with? Should I be leaning with a wholesale or an investment offer? If they need to get the money quick and they need to close in a fast time frame and they need to sell the property in as is condition, that would be all signs pointing to a potential wholesale or investment offer. Or if that seller is more motivated but not distressed, then they may not need to sell their property at a discount. So going the novation route or the listing route may make more sense with that seller. Or if they are a multifamily homeowner or an investment property homeowner, and maybe they're willing to give up their property, or this might be a deal that's in their portfolio that they're just looking to say goodbye to, and they're willing to create some creative terms with you and your team so you can pick up the property with little to no money down and ultimately take over the asset down the road with the balloon payment and terms that make sense. Where then you want to go and pitch, a creative finance or seller financing offer, right? These are different ways that we can assess a motivated seller lead and then align our exit strategies accordingly to see which routes make the most sense for that seller based on their goals and needs. Simple game, right? Because the more solutions you provide to sellers, naturally the more leads that you can convert in your lead pipeline, and that's going to ultimately result in more closed deals for your business. So that's going to allow you to not only beat out your competition, but what's the best and most exciting piece of all of this is if you take time and effort and investment of money, even in some scenarios, to learn these skills and become proficient in all these skills, you can now convert leads in multiple ways without having to increase your marketing spend. Right now, you can still convert the same volume of leads, still spend the same amount on marketing, but naturally you're going to convert more of the leads that you're generating, making more revenue for your business with less overhead and complexity. That's the real exciting piece of it. So that's what my team has done over the years. That's what many of my clients I know are focused on, is learning these skills. And that's what we're here to do today, is focus primarily on the wholesale pitch and novation pitch, so that you guys can go out and recognize opportunities appropriately and disqualify or qualify with your sellers as fast as possible. So let's just assume, as we get to this point, you've received a qualified lead in your CRM. And we're going to jump into some actual leads in just a moment and do this step by step. But let's assume either you are doing the lead gen on your own, or you've hired a third-party company and now you're sitting down to do your lead follow-ups. So the first thing you want to do is you want to assess the situation of the lead. Review the notes, make sure you understand what the motivation is, their pain for selling now, the timeline to sell, what is their price based off the market value. And these are data points that you're going to gather to start figuring out, okay, should I be leading with this exit strategy, or should I be prepared to also pivot to this exit strategy if it makes sense? So let's look at an actual lead so that we can add some additional context to this. So I'm going to go into one of my client leads here. And what you're going to see is a scenario of a woman who has recently lost her husband. Clear pain, a lot of emotions tied to this property, a lot of memories tied to the property. So that's first and foremost a highly motivated seller. But we haven't determined if she's necessarily distressed yet. She's definitely motivated, but she's not necessarily distressed. So we see here that there's no major damage to the structure. It looks like their property has had some recent investments done to it, where it's had some a new heater, new appliances, a roof installed in a week. Looks like we're having new windows replaced. So there's definitely a lot of work being done to the property. Now, there's still definitely some property that's remaining. And so what we want to do is we want to dig into that, right? Is there an opportunity for us to maybe cut bait with the work and money she's put in, and see if we can make an investment offer so she doesn't have to put any more sweat equity into the deal or any money into the property to get it ready for sale? So we could think about that going in is, okay, let's see if we can poke around her not doing any more work to the property, try to get this at a wholesale offer, and then have an investor finish the job and we wholesale the deal too. That's the first thing that sticks out to me. Then the second, however, is, okay, if there is pain with the emotions of the property, if maybe she's getting, I don't know her age, but let's see, house is too big for her. Okay. So I'm not seeing anything about her age, but maybe we want to think about novation. If she's elderly, if she doesn't have a ton of money to invest in the property, if she's concerned about paying commissions, or if she's also concerned about having to do the walkthroughs and navigate the listing process, maybe we want to pitch her and get her bought into novation. Or if you happen to be a client that's reviewing this lead and you happen to be a licensed realtor, I would then try to pitch your services and why it makes the most sense to list, because she's clearly looking to maximize the value of her home. So as I go into, notice how I haven't even done any underwriting as far as comp pulling. I haven't figured out what my offer price is even at this point. I'm just trying to go in as the managerial or leadership member of my business, and then have a really good conversation with the seller to either qualify or disqualify if it makes sense to do business with our team. Now, what I will suggest is, if you feel like you have a really strong motivated seller, they've indicated a strong price substantially off of market value, and they're in a state of distress where time is not on your side, yes, prepare to do your comps, prepare to do your offer, and make that on the follow-up call. I'm not saying don't do that, but the vast majority of leads, and where I see new wholesalers and new investors get caught up, is trying to underwrite every lead, analyze every deal as if they're going to make an offer before they've even spoken to the seller, right? You still need to qualify. You still need to see if this seller is going to be worth your time and your business's time, and making sure you can either disqualify or move to an offer or walk through to get further due diligence done that will then result in an offer. Okay. So what your goal is, and what you're going to see as we go through the pitch in a few slides, is that you want to just assess the situation, prepare yourself for how you're going to pivot and see if it makes sense to do business with the seller, and be prepared to talk about those different services that you can provide before you ever even have done comp pulling and underwriting, because you don't even know if this person is going to be worth doing business with. Why go through that process and headache? You're going to waste time, and your goal should just be talking to people, qualify or disqualify if you can help them. And then if you can help them, now you go through more time and energy spent on that deal and lead. That's how you should be thinking about it. Be selfish with your time and then engage, sell your services, and make sure that you're on the same page, that you can help them with your business model. And then we can start talking about offers and next steps with walkthroughs and pictures, etc. So again, we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves here. Let's jump back into the first thing I do is I assess the situation. Now I'm thinking inside of my head, what exit strategies could I align here? And on that lead example, I'm thinking for my business model, because I'm not a licensed agent, I'm thinking of wholesale. And then if I think I can't get much of a discount or budge on that number, I'm going to start pivoting to my novation offer. So number one, assess the situation. And then of course, as you go through this, you got to ask yourself, can you or an investor make money on this deal? And ultimately, is it a win-win for you or an investor and as well the seller at the end of the day? And so when I assessed that lead from my client, I said to myself, I can definitely pitch novation and I can definitely pitch a wholesale offer and anchor price to see if she's willing to take a discount. So that lead I would continue forth with. Now, number two is I'm going to get on the phone with that seller and I'm going to pitch them on our business and our services and really qualify what's important to that seller. So let's jump over to the pitch. This is a SOP that you guys have availability or access to, I should say. It's going to be in the tackling your follow-up calls script section and acquisitions. So if you go over to acquisitions, you're going to go to, here we go. We're going to go to in the resource library, acquisitions, scripts, tackling your follow-up calls, pitching your business's value proposition. So if you like, we go through this in a live training. We did this the day prior to this video, and you can see us as we work with clients on the actual live training, and we go deeper into this. But to quickly highlight a few key points, you're going to notice here, I'm introducing myself, my business, and why I was reaching out. And what's key is that I emphasize the importance of the fact that we are a real estate solutions company, an investment company. Our goal is that we help sellers maximize the value of their home, because there's a lot of ways that we can do that. So my goal for this call, because I know you have a lot of notes from the conversation with our caller that you had, I was able to connect with our agent. I was able to connect with our caller. I think I have a really good understanding of your selling goals or your needs. However, I'd like to qualify a few more things if you don't mind, and then we can see if it makes sense to do business together. How does that sound? Yes, that sounds good. Okay, great. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when I typically work with sellers, there are three things that are most important to them when doing a deal, and that's speed, price, and convenience. Out of these three, which two are most important to you, if you don't mind me asking? Because in the law of negotiation, you can't have all three. And this is me coming out of I'm not telling this to the seller. This is me kind of taking a step back and reminding you that in the law of negotiation, these are really typically three things that we run into on all negotiations, right? Terms and price. And so in wholesaling, or let's call it real estate investing, when we're working with a seller, you can have speed, you can have price, and you can have convenience. And then you can have two out of those three, but you can't have them all, because now it's a win-lose. So understanding and putting this question out there for the seller to address will start to have them be more transparent and open in a more roundabout way about what's important to them and what exit strategy we need to align to close this deal for them. Okay. And that's going to make sure we're providing value in the sales engagement, because we're actually aligning an exit strategy that makes sense for the seller needs, and it's solving their challenge and solving their problems and being empathetic to their situation. So there's so many more positive effects that can come from just approaching your sales this way. But for now, let's jump back into the script. So out of those three, which two are most important to you? And so what you want to hear is their feedback, because now what you're thinking is, okay, if speed and convenience is important, I know that wholesaling is a great solution. We're going to give them a wholesale offer or an investment offer, because price isn't a concern. They just need to get out of the property, need to get rid of it, and they need to be done. But then if we start uncovering that the price is actually really important, and they're actually starting to divulge to us that, hey, we're not needing to sell this property at a discount, hey, I'm not desperate to sell this home. Like, I would like to sell this home. I would like to be done with it. I would like to go move closer to my children, or I would like to go retire in Florida, but I don't need to sell at a discount. I'm willing to wait to get my number. Okay, no problem. Then now you're thinking, this is a better opportunity for listing and pitching, let's go work with a realtor, or saying, let's really pivot to novation and get this them bought into novation. And in our cases right now in my business, I'm not pushing to a referral for a listing. I'm pushing to novation, and I'm pushing wholesale. And so I'm leading with a wholesale price and an anchoring price with wholesale. And if they don't accept that price, I rebuttal with a novation offer and the way that we're going to get them on board with that. And that is converting so well in our business. It is almost impossible for a seller to want to work with us. Sorry, it is almost impossible for a seller to not want to work with us, because it's hard to say no. So once you have asked them this question, what you want to do is you want to pause. You want to listen to their feedback and you want to take more notes. Okay. So it's really important that you get this feedback from them, because now you're going to start figuring out, okay, do I need to now pivot into the wholesale pitch, or I need to go into the novation pitch? And at this point, if you're feeling like, hey, this route makes the most sense to go wholesale, this is kind of how the conversation is going to go. So once you get their feedback and they say, well, to me, speed and convenience is the most important. And let's say I go back to this lead here. Maybe this isn't the best example. I'm going to go to this lead. All right, so this is a better example I was looking for, which is a better wholesale opportunity. And this is a great example of a seller, right? Some things that jump out of assessing a situation would be, okay, this seller is clearly asking a high discount off of the market value, right? We're already 110K of equity at their below anchor price. Apparently they won't go below 350. We might even be able to get that lower, who knows? But that jumps out to me right away. The next thing is that this is a tenant occupied property, right? Which means it's hard for going to do novation or listing. It's really hard to get people in and out of the property. So that's a major problem, right? So there's clear motivation. This is an elderly, tired landlord, tired of having this property tie them down. That's why they're already asking a steep discount off the market value. I'm going to assume there's probably a lot of deferred maintenance, because there is one unit that has not been remodeled recently, and it's an elderly seller. So all the signs point to, we got to get prepared for a wholesale pitch here, because I don't think novation is going to make any sense. And we want to keep reminding this person, right? When we're leading with a wholesale offer, we want to remind this person of competitive landmines here to want to go in a different direction, which is, hey, you don't want to go listing, or you don't want to do novation, or you wouldn't want to do something where it would disrupt the tenants. So we should try to make something work with either a wholesale anchor price first, wholesale offer, try to get them to sell at a wholesale price. And if they won't accept that and have a high price that they stand by with, you want to then pivot to seller and creative financing for a deal like this, because it is already cash flowing. It is a multifamily property, and you could position something where you create some creative terms and do a seller financing pitch with the situation. So going back to the basics here, I'm looking at this wholesale opportunity. I'm saying, okay, now I've got myself gathered. I've talked to the seller and I said, hey, typically when I work with sellers, there are three things that are most important to them when doing a deal: speed, price, and convenience. Out of this three, which are most important to you? Now, in the situation of Salvatore, let's say speed and convenience, right? I'm willing to accept 350 if this is Salvatore saying this. However, I need to close in 30 days and I need these to be done as is condition. Okay, great. Well, at that point, I'm not entirely sure if 350 is even the right price, but what you're going to start doing now is, okay, you've got this person on the hook for wholesale. And I want to be clear, right? Don't confuse wholesale pitch with anything other than you are in the shoes of, or you're in the position of an investor making an investment offer. Because when we say wholesale offer, it's really just an investment offer. And the goal is to get this deal at such a steep discount that an investor can make money on it, and you as a wholesaler ultimately will find an investor willing to buy this property at a higher price than what you have it agreed upon. Okay? So that's really what it is. So don't get tripped up on that. What you really want to just be prepared now is, okay, we know that Salvatore, in this scenario is pretty much at a wholesale price. Let's just do the math roughly. If we did, say we want to get this deal at 60% of ARV, 460, 920. 60% of ARV would mean we have to get the deal at 276. That might be a little bit steep. Let's see if we need to get this deal at 70% of ARV. That's 322. So given that it's already a cash flowing property, and again, we haven't had discussions, there's so much more information we need to find. And that's ultimately going to be your goal as the person doing the follow-up, is you're saying, okay, if I need to get 70% of ARV, then I need to try to get a deal down to like 325 and then maybe try to wholesale this for 350. So if you know you're already going to be lower in this scenario than what the seller is asking for, you want to tell the seller and remind the seller, listen, there's one unit that's not even done yet. There's tenants already in it. The rents are already a little bit lower than market rents. There's going to have to be some tenant turnover and some money and time I have to put into this. And at the end of the day, it's not going to make sense to bring this to market because you're going to disrupt the tenants. You're going to have to pay commissions. You're going to have to get the property prepped and ready. It's going to be such a headache. Right now, you're talking the seller down through this process and saying, like, listen, it's important that you take this offer for me because it's strong and it makes sense based on what you've told me so far, right? Keep reminding the seller, hey, you told me that speed and convenience was important. If we're able to get this done for you, we'll take off this headache, done in 30 days, no strings attached, cash in your pocket. We can do this at 325. What do you say? And then you keep reminding them, like, that's what you're doing here, right? We're not going to make this training about negotiating and presenting your offer. What I want to focus on is the importance of what I've done here, which is finding out what's important to that seller, pitching my business value proposition as a company that does this a lot with sellers, and our goal is to maximize the value of their home. Once you uncover what's important to them, you align your exit strategies accordingly, and that's going to ultimately make you a more effective real estate professional. And then this property, now you've got the seller on board because you've reminded them again what's important to them. You're listening, active listening, and you're providing solutions to what makes the most sense. Because based on what I've seen here with Salvatore, going the listing route and other routes aside from wholesale or creative finance aren't going to make sense. But you got a really good motivated lead here, so you don't want to lose this person and be off the hook. So make sure that in this scenario, now we're really presenting their value prop as we want to get them on board with a wholesale offer. Now, step 3, let's jump in. So for step 3, what we now want to do is uncover, of course, what's important to the seller. And once we've done that, like I said, we can now align either a wholesale or innovation or creative finance or listing route if you're a licensed agent. So in the scenario I just went through, what we did is we uncovered 2 different scenarios. The first one was probably a little bit better fitting for maybe going the listing or innovation pitch, where the second scenario we uncovered that wholesaling and pitching a wholesale offer would probably make the most sense. So what we want to do is go over to another helpful resource. When you get to this point in the process, once we've uncovered, again, what the best path forward is going to be, we ultimately want to now get prepared to do some additional digging into things like motivation, which is where you're going to want to go and direct your attention to this follow-up process sheet. Because now what you're really going to want to do is just continue to keep confirming again, are you providing the right solution for the seller? Okay, if you think that that doing a wholesale offer is going to make the most sense, the next step is naturally going to be either an offer or further due diligence with a walkthrough and just getting as much information as possible so we can make our offer price. So that's where in the scenario that I just went through with that gentleman, Salvatore, this is where I would go into digging, confirming more motivation, making sure I understand property condition. You can always revert down to the checklist, right? So you can have this handy on your call. Once you've got them bought in, again, I'm figuring out, okay, if you know now you're going to go the route of wholesale offer, now it's time to figure out condition questions. Now it's time to confirm all the different things that the caller already did for us, making sure we're getting a rough idea of what type of rehab estimate could we possibly be working with. So you're just getting all these qualifying questions now. You're getting more details on the property. And now what you're ultimately going to do is set the table for our next step, which is where I want to bring your attention down to here. So from here, what we can do is, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I think I have an understanding of what's important to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take about 20 to 30 minutes to go talk with my partners to see what your property would qualify for a cash offer. All right. And in the meantime, are you on Facebook or have you checked out our websites? This is where you want to build credibility. This is where you want to help to get them on board with, like, okay, we're a trusted partner. Go check us out. We're legit. We mean this. It's going to help you sort of weed out of this flooded and competitive space that we're in as wholesalers and investors in real estate. But you really just want to be setting the table of, okay, we're going to see what your property qualifies for. First and foremost, I'd like to get a hard next step from you. When's a good time for me to give you a call back so we can go through my offer? So you get that locked in. And while they're getting their availability, while you're getting their feedback, you wait for them to tell you that availability. You say, wonderful, listen, I've had a fantastic time. No, sorry, you don't have to be that overzealous. You can be something along the lines of, it's been really nice meeting and speaking with you. I'm excited at the opportunity to help you through the selling process. I'm confident my team's going to come back with, the best offer that they can provide based on the things that we discussed today. And I'll give you a call back at the time that we agreed upon. And now you are ready to then go into your underwriting, figuring out your wholesale offer, running your comps, and then connecting with your team members internally to make sure that you're ready to give that pitch. So this is a helpful resource. This is more so for, regardless if you're doing any opportunity, this is more so for opening. I do put wholesale and investment offer because it sort of leans into that, where we have a separate pitch for novation here, this SOP that I went through in the novation trainings. But this is the lead up into before you even get into the novation pitch or before you even get into a wholesale offer pitch, right? This is just to go into the lead as you're assessing the situation, qualify what the best path forward is going to be for that seller, and then get ready, align your exit strategies appropriately, right? You want to make sure you have multiple ways to convert if they push back on one or the other. And so really making sure you guys get comfortable with these resources and then going into here and then just making sure that you get yourself through the process of, all right, we're going to set a hard next step and make sure that we are crystal clear with the seller when we're going to re-engage with them. Because the last steps are actually quite easy, right? We've done a lot of the heavy lifting here, which is setting the table for qualifying and making sure, hey, does this make sense to do business together? Because in a lot of your scenarios, what we're going to come to find is that you either can do a wholesale offer or a novation offer. And if you're a licensed agent, of course, you can then do a listing opportunity. So I want everyone to really practice the SOPs that we've covered in this call, as well as the novation trainings, so that you can get really good at recognizing opportunities and you can get really good at pitching these and converting these sellers when the opportunity presents itself. So this training that I went over in the novation pitch can be found in the acquisitions section of the classroom. So let us know if you have any issues, but those are the ones you're going to want to familiarize yourself with. And then as we wrap up, as I've already alluded to, is always make sure that you have a hard next step if you find that this seller is or does fit your business model. Okay, if we've uncovered that, hey, we can lead in with a wholesale offer or innovation offer, or even refer this person to a listing agent, maybe it does now confirm makes sense to move forward with this seller. All right, so now we've qualified, we're going to spend our time and attention on this lead, or we've come to the determination that this isn't worth our time and we moved on. So take this 5-step process into your cadence, work on the SOPs that you have provided, and we will see you guys on our next training, where we're going to go deeper into presenting our offer and deal underwriting.